The Sword Elite, one of Halo's most infamous enemies. They can kill the chief in one swing, and you can run, but they'll hunt you down relentlessly. So I thought it'd be fun to mod Halo CE to turn every single enemy into them. I was determined to find out, can you beat Halo on Legendary if every enemy is a Sword Elite? I set up a death counter in the bottom right hand corner of the screen to keep track of my pain and suffering as I played through this challenge. I also timed each level, so then at the end I can compare which level took the longest and which one had the most deaths. As I started this run, I wasn't sure yet what the best way to kill the elites was going to be. Master Chief can't use the energy sword in Halo 1, and the golden elites are very tanky. Though I quickly realized that plasma grenades were going to come in clutch during this challenge, as the enemies were always dropping them. Leaving the bridge quickly was important, because if you did, you could skip a spawn of 3 elites, which of course I didn't after my 3rd death. I got a checkpoint as soon as they spawned in, and with the amount of pistol ammo I had, I didn't have a chance at taking them out. For some reason, they also wouldn't drop grenades in this area when they died, and the door wasn't going to open until they were all dead. After dying here a few times, I just decided to restart the level, and always made sure to run out the bridge quickly enough from here on out to skip the spawn. The downside to this is that I don't get a pistol yet, but there was plentiful bait, or marines, to help me out. And that's pretty much all they were good for. The marines would distract the elites for a few seconds and quickly die. They were even more helpless than battle droids fighting Jedi. Something useful I learned on this level is that the overshield will allow you to survive one extra hit from the energy sword. But it wasn't enough to save me from this elite, who phased his upper body through a door to kill me.
Looks like I picked the wrong GameStop.
Another amusing moment came from this elite, who went flying like he had a rocket up his ass. Knowing who to grenade and when seemed to be the key to getting through each area, and the end of the level was definitely the toughest part. There were elites everywhere, and sometimes they would even follow me into the side tunnels. But I was able to use my grenades and dodging skills to my advantage. When adding in the time from restarting, the first mission took me just under 45 minutes. And after one last CE meme death, it was time to go land on the giant hula hoop. I started off the second level of Halo with a relatively easy grenade jump. This allows me to skip a spawn of elites and 2 banshees. Then as I approached the first group of marine survivors, something weird happened. I was able to survive a couple of sword strikes from the elites before getting killed, and then it happened 2 more times in this area. But there were 3 other times I died to this first wave in 1 hit still. I investigated, mapping out the locations of where I died during this first encounter. When I was closer to the tower, I still died in 1 hit like normal, but when I was further away, that's when it took multiple strikes to kill me. I went back and tested the elites from earlier in the mission, and from the other dropship waves, and all of them still killed me in only 1 hit. My best guess for what happened is that something in the game files is reducing the amount of damage that Chief takes from melee attacks in this first wave, and only when he's far enough away from the tower. Though I wasn't able to find any evidence for this in the game files, and after double checking all my work, I did in fact mod in all of the enemies correctly, so this one will just have to go down as a mystery. But I can explain why some of the elite swords are appearing on the ground when they die.
Huh?
The elites are scripted to lose their swords when they die in Halo CE, and that also makes them lose their sword when they step out of a vehicle for some reason. I had to modify the dropship elite swords to not disappear when they die, otherwise they would just jump out of the bandit holding nothing. One thing I really liked about this mission is that the wide open spaces made it easy to see where the elites were coming from, though I often got overwhelmed quickly with how fast the enemies moved in on me. After nearly half an hour, I managed to save 2 marines and clear the first area, finally getting the Warthog. Now the biggest threat for the rest of the level is my driving skills, though to my credit I only managed to drive off a cliff 3 times. Channeling my inner road rage, I did my best to run over as many elites as possible. The game becomes much easier when only the slightest tap kills your enemies. With only 48 more deaths, Halo was done. But the real challenge was just getting started. Truth and reconciliation. I could tell this was going to be a shit show, and sure enough, it was. Even though the Marines had guns and the high ground, they decided to jump down in front of the Sword Elites head on. Though I didn't have any room to talk either. The best way I found to keep them alive was to stay as far back as possible and use the sniper rifle. Though I also had to be alert to make sure no elites snuck up on me. Getting to the Gravlift section took longer than the first 2 missions combined, and had me constantly getting jumped by ninjas and turrets. When I got to the part with the camo, I just ran past everyone and grabbed it, using it to get to the Gravlift section. I thought I had set myself up well for this section, as I got a checkpoint with most of the camo still available, and could use it to get some easy kills to start off the area. And while it was easy to get the first few kills, the enemies that I ran past in the previous section were following me into the area with the ship. On top of that, a dropship would bring in 4 more elites every time, and waves of them were about to start coming down the Gravlift. I regretted not killing the enemies in the camo section to begin with, because I was getting quickly overwhelmed, and there was no escape. Having already beat the first 2 missions on my first day of attempting this challenge, I decided to call it a day. A good night's sleep was sure to help me beat Truth and Reconciliation tomorrow. Oh fuck. Shit.
Bloody hell.
This was gonna be torture. Not only are enemies from the previous section following me in here, but once enough of them die, there are 8 waves of 6 elites to deal with coming down from the ship. With the final hunter wave, that adds up to 50 sword elites coming down from the lift alone. 6 of them in each wave gets overwhelming very quickly, and the next wave will come down when 1 sword elite is still left alive. With the enemies still being alive in the last area, I was surrounded. I thought I could stay out by the ship and try to kill the elites as quickly as possible, maybe getting lucky with my grenades. But quickly killing 6 sword guys 8 times was extremely difficult. I kept trying, and dying, over and over again. I tried clearing the previous section in hopes of gaining a checkpoint, but had no luck. It wasn't all doom and gloom though. Knocking the elites out of turrets to turn them into punching bags that hit back was pretty fun. I spent over 3 hours at this checkpoint on the second day of the challenge, and remained stuck here. The next day, I again tried to clear the previous section, and I was able to do it. But I got no checkpoint, and then I died, and was right back where I started. Out of desperation, I even tried climbing in a tree to hide from the enemies, and it kinda worked, until I fell off. Though it wouldn't have really worked without infinite ammo anyway. After about 2 hours on the 3rd day, I still couldn't beat the checkpoint. But I wasn't gonna give up, and on the 4th day I came back determined to beat this. With the help of Halo Completionist, I came up with a strategy. His lasso guide for Truth and Reconciliation involves luring the waves of enemies from the ship to this little rock canyon, and then using the rocks as cover while you take out each wave. My plan now was to kill all of the enemies in the previous area, and then once I got the waves from the ship to start spawning, I would run back to the canyon. Then using the lasso strat of hiding behind the rock, I would stick the elites one by one. Unlike the regular enemies, the sword guys would still follow me behind the rock, but at least it was usually only 1 or 2 at a time. In less than 40 minutes, I got through a few waves, and finally got another checkpoint. The lasso strat made the rest of the waves a breeze, and before I knew it, I was boarding the Truth and Reconciliation. Now, there's a little twist to the challenge that I'll introduce here. When I was modding the enemies, I didn't make every single one a golden elite. I left the camo elites invisible, just to have a bit of mercy on myself. The camo elites that originally had plasma rifles in the game had their weapons changed to energy swords. I left them invisible too. The other element to the twist involves the golden sword elites that appear in the normal game. I replaced them with white elite ultras with energy swords. Ultras don't appear in CE as an enemy that you can fight, so I modded them myself, and I gave them 50% more shield than the golden elites. I had them in as a fun way to see how many golden sword elites I would have fought if I just played through the game normally.
Betrayal.
As for the belly fight, it would be a total bloodbath. Grenades dropping everywhere made for many glorious chain reactions. I also didn't make it any easier on myself, as I was convinced I should save the camo for after the belly fight. I purposely avoided using it. As a result, my death counter skyrocketed as I spent hours getting overrun by hordes of elites. I mainly tried sticking them as they came through the doors, but it was very hard to kill them quickly enough before more waves came in. And this guy deflected my grenade with his hand. Great. I tried hiding in the hallways, but the elites would surround me and then move in for the kill. After over 4 hours straight of getting ran through, I finally just decided to grab the camo and backsmack as many of the elites as I could. The first time I tried that, I was able to beat the checkpoint. I had originally thought I was going to need the camo to sneak by the next group of enemies to get into the hangar, but I was easily able to run by them in only my second try. I then pulled off the triple grenade jump in the hangar on my third try, skipping many of the enemies here. I died 465 times in the belly fight alone, and then only had 19 more deaths than the rest of the mission. In total, Truth and Reconciliation took me 12.5 hours to beat, and I was so glad to finally be done. After the hell I just went through, I decided to nope out of Halo's D-Day, and instead enjoyed skipping along the beach. The Marines will be fine. I found a Warthog further away, which allowed me to engage in GTA mode.
Got it. Let's go bowling. Bowling, 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 bowling.
After knocking down all the pins, I was able to enter the tower, and use a skip I learned watching Jervalen last year. First, you grab the overshield outside, then bring in the Warthog and line it up against this opening. Use a grenade to flip it over, and then whack it against the edge like this. Then, put yourself between the edge and the Warthog and flip it, and it'll push you down below to where the cartographer is. After reading the map, I grabbed the camo and used it to run past almost everyone else out of the facility. Considering it only took about 3% as long as the last level, Silent Cartographer was very enjoyable. I killed a few more guys, and then the mission was done.
Oh, hell. You did that on purpose, didn't you?
The beginning of Assault on the Control Room was where I truly started appreciating the plasma grenades. You don't have any to start the level with, and have to kill a group of sword elites immediately charging you, because running past them does not work. The starting weapons take forever to kill them, and I had the hope to be able to kill one and get its grenades before they killed me. My best bet seemed to be immediately running away and shooting at them, running along the edge of this platform. Sometimes one of the elites would fall off by themselves. Even with them sometimes hitting each other, killing one wasn't guaranteed to help me if I couldn't get the plasmas in time. And it's worth noting that here is where I hit 1,000 deaths. It didn't take too long to get set up well with plasmas to take out the enemies. Despite having one brain fart, I made it through here in about 10 minutes. Huh. Bye. The next room was quick and easy, though I did learn that apparently the golden elites can survive being stuck if they stick the part of themselves with the grenade into a wall. As I made it to the bridge, my plan now was to do the Banshee grab. I had learned the trick not too long before doing this challenge, and I didn't find it too difficult. But as it turns out, dealing with sword elites instead of sleeping grunts makes it much harder to pull off. They would almost always rush me, which would mean I had no chance of getting the Banshee. Even the turrets were trying to stop me. There's also a way to jump down to the ground from the bridge. I had done it before, but I definitely found it harder than the Banshee grab. I knew Assault on the Control Room was a very long level, and I didn't want to risk spending over half a day on one mission again. So I decided to keep hitting my head against the wall, hoping to either grab the Banshee or successfully jump off the bridge. I had hoped that the trick would work, because occasionally none of the elites would rush me. I just needed to pull it off correctly during one of those times. Eventually I did do the trick successfully, but I got killed before the pilot fell out. Apparently I made jumping off a bridge look fun, because one of the elites tried it too. Surprisingly, I managed to pull off the bridge fall first, making it all the way down to the Marines and a Warthog. With that skip, no more enemies would spawn in the rest of the mission, which made for a nice peaceful drive to the end. With half the missions done, I was now on 343 Guilty Spark, which would feature some things for the first time during this challenge. It was the first time I would come across any Covenant guns, including a plasma pistol, which I picked up near the start of the level. It was also the first Flood mission. I grabbed a camo just before going underground to sneak past some of the enemies. On my way in, CE turrets struck again. Thanks to the camo, I snuck past the elites by the elevator, and I was able to get to the Flood reveal room without dying. There's supposed to be 32 popcorn Flood in 3 different rooms as you first fight the Flood. With them being turned into sword elites, they literally jumped out at me from the walls. As scary as this looked though, this ended up being the most fun part of the entire challenge.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Fucking beautiful. As fun as this was, clearing this room wasn't easy. Throwing a bunch of grenades into the rooms didn't always set off a chain reaction, and even when it didn't always kill everyone. If it wasn't for the grenades, clearing this room would be impossible. I had to pick up as many as I could so that when the second and third rooms opened up I could nuke them right away. If I didn't, they would often rush and kill me. It wasn't too bad though, as I cleared the 3 rooms and then the exit door in just over 40 minutes for another checkpoint. There I got to fight elites randomly falling out of the ceiling. Then I found out I could assassinate some of the ceiling guys with a whack to the foot. I had to slowly clear out all of the enemies in the next few areas because there were so many of them. The tight hallways, jumping guys, and guys behind doors were the main threats.
Surprise, motherfucker!
When I got to the first elevator, I figured it was strong enough to hold the elites and I, and that we could ride it together. But apparently they didn't think so. And I found a guy that looked like a toy duck in the floor. After riding down the elevator, I grabbed camo and managed to run past a bunch of guys to the first shotgun of the run. The last group of guys wasn't too difficult, and before I knew it, I was back out in the swamp. Now, I would normally try to save the Marines when I play this level, especially because they're the last Marines in the whole game, but... yeah. I abandoned them, and then ran in circles from the hordes of elites until the level ended, beating it in under 2 hours. This has to be the worst library I've ever been to. I couldn't find a single book the entire time I was here. And when I enter, a bunch of guys are just immediately looking at me, as if it's my turn to give a class presentation in school. Not to mention how they shouted at me when I got too close. Like an assault on the control room, you don't start with plasma grenades here, so it was a struggle to get some. I also tried to avoid shooting too much, because I knew without the flood dropping weapons, there wasn't going to be much ammo, if any. The best way I found to get some plasma grenades was to do a grenade jump outside of the starting area, then get an easy assassination from this group of guys with their backs turned to me. The first floor's hallways were filled to the brim with elites. They would often spawn both in front of and behind me at the same time. Killing them all was very slow and difficult though, especially as there was multiple waves of them in some areas. So I decided to try running past everyone where I could, and on the first floor, it worked. When I got to this tunnel, I ran out of plasma grenades, so I had to get creative to kill the last elite.
Nice.
Then inside, guys were sticking their heads in the walls again to survive being stuck. The other end of the tunnel had so many elites outside that I had to take my time slowly killing them all. And just when I thought it was safe to go, more spawned in and insta-killed me. So fuck it, I decided to try and yellow past everyone. And it worked. Another tunnel on the 3rd floor brought more fun and memes. One elite dropped out of the ceiling, and oh, nice try. This tunnel and the next section were tough. It brought me to a door, where I found it best to wait in the corner until it was open. After getting mid-air sniped a few times, I made it to another door, where I hid and waited for it to open. From there, it was a relatively easy run to the elevator, and the last floor of the level. I killed some enemies for a checkpoint, and finally came across another weapon on the ground. The end was near now, and the rockets were sure to help. Holy fuck. Oh my god. Oh no, and I just jumped off the map. Despite choking that, it didn't take me too much longer to make it to the end. Surprisingly, the library ended up being quicker than 343 Guilty Spark. And it was time for one last elevator ride, right back to where we started. Yeah, this place sucks. Two betrayals gets us right back into the action. Normally, this level is an epic, all-out three-way war between the Covenant, Flood, and Sentinels. Now they're all elites on the same team with one goal, swording me to death. Seeing the elites from above at night made it look like they were holding glow sticks, which was pretty cool. I wanted to try bringing the Banshee in the hallways to kill them, but seeing how they still jumped at me even when flying it, I could tell it wasn't gonna work. The first few rooms and hallways were pretty easy, and I even stuck an elite from across the map. This room had shotgun ammo, which I didn't need yet, and I was able to just run right through. The first hard part had elites spawning on all sides of the room, so just charging in Rambo style wasn't really gonna work. In this level, luring them to the hallway where I entered the room from and sticking them there seemed to be the best play. The elites were bunched up in a bunch of places on the walls, and throwing a grenade at them was like throwing a rock at a hornet's nest. With hordes of enemies coming from all sides, it took me about an hour to get through this room. Then I was quickly met with another tough room, which literally had elites dropping from the ceiling. In less than an hour I cleared the room, set off some fireworks, and made it back outside. The bridge here had tons of elites and 2 banshees. Getting shot at made it much harder, so I had to try and take those banshees out as soon as I could. And whenever I tried taking out one, the elites seemed to know I was distracted and would rush me. The banshees in this game just do not give a fuck about anything. They'll run down their own allies and even try to splatter you when you're inside the building. Then one guy lunged at me like he was using the Halo 2 sword. When I finally made it further down the bridge, a bunch more elites spawned in towers and chased me down. But I managed to kill them all on my first try. Some sleeping AI in the next area gifted me an easy killionaire. So satisfying. And then I rode the elevator of death. I called it that because sometimes an elite would drop right on top of me, killing me instantly. Most of them stayed up on the ceiling though, so I got through here pretty easily. I got outside again where I was able to refuel on health, shotgun ammo, and picked up rockets. Then I fought my way to the second pulse generator. This room was quite challenging, especially after taking out the pulse generator. When you take it out, a bunch more enemies spawn in the room and in the hallway that you need to exit. The circular layout also makes it very easy for the enemies to flank you. After finding them head-on didn't work, I came up with a new method. I started hiding in this little compartment on the side of the wall, hoping to sneak by the elites. They could still hit me from in there if I wasn't careful, so I ended up making a run for it to escape. And it took me several minutes, but I did manage to jam the Banshee through the door, and from there it was mostly smooth sailing to the end. Excuse me, sir? Can I help you? I just had to deal with one creep in the Banshee to be done with the mission. Now we're on Keys, which means it's time to rescue Keys. Again. Rather than fighting everyone, I picked up some camo near the start and ran past as many elites as possible. It didn't take me that far though, so I still had tons of enemies to fight. Elites were dropping down from the cliffs above me, which made it really hard to see where they were coming from sometimes. Through trial and error, I figured out where and when they would spawn, and slowly made progress. After a while, I made it to the area with infinitely spawning enemies. I had to jump down from the lookout point and kill them down there, or else they were just gonna keep spawning. Which is easier said than done. As soon as I jumped down, they were all over me, so I couldn't even make it that far much of the time. Even when I made it to the back section, fighting them all was futile, which led to me trying to YOLO past everyone. Don't know why they got wiped from existence, but I'll take it. Getting back on the ship was rough. I had to play Rain Around the Rosie with the elites to get back on board. I could only re-enter it if I stayed in the graduate for long enough, and with all the guys chasing me, I had to keep running. When I killed some, more would spawn, so it seemed to be really a matter of luck. And luck was definitely on my side in this section. I somehow threw a grenade right through an elite's body. Twice. When I finally made it on the ship, there was no checkpoint yet. Then I ended up choking it and getting sent back outside, and I choked it 4 more times after that. One of those times, the plasma pistol overcharged and staggered the elite like it should have. And another time, the overcharge did nothing at all despite being a direct hit on this guy. My luck here had me take almost 2 hours just getting on the ship and surviving for another checkpoint. For the next while, I felt like I had a break, as I didn't come across anything too challenging through most of the ship, not until I made it to Keys. The hallway entering the bridge is full with elites. I thought I could take them out before going inside, but for every one I killed, another one respawned. So with what seemed like another set of infinite spawns, I tried charging my way into the room. With how tight the hallway was, and how many guys were running and jumping at me, it made it extremely difficult to get through. The deaths were racking up quickly, but a few times I did actually manage to get inside the room before being killed, so I knew it was possible. About 40 minutes and 141 deaths later, I made it in, at 4:20 into the mission. From here, I easily made it to the end and moved on to the last mission. Going into the Maw, I was excited to finally be almost done with this challenge. The finish line was in sight. The level started off with enemies spawning right in front of me, and then I got killed through another wall. And I got a checkpoint when I wasn't holding any grenades, and without any on the ground nearby, so things were off to a pretty good start. Then something interesting I learned in this long hallway here is that shooting would make guys fall out of the wall. I don't know why that is, but I guess they're just attracted to the sound of gunfire. Even after many hours of playing this challenge, killing the elites through the ceiling just never gets old. Neither do the chain reactions. After finally making it to the bridge, I was rewarded with a good laugh, but things were about to get even tougher. The cryo room was hell. There are so many elites to kill in here, so trying to take them on head on just isn't gonna work. For the most part, you have to lure them towards the hallways so you can kill them and get more grenades. Jumping across the pipes here was helpful though, since the elites couldn't get across them easily, and there was a health pack in the corner. I had to be careful because they could still get across it sometimes, and if their grenades fell in the fire, they'd blow up. Once I killed almost all the elites in the room and made it up to the top level, a whole bunch more spawned down below where I just was, leaving me trapped without a checkpoint. I couldn't just run into the next area yet because it was also full of elites, so I basically had to clear out this room twice and hope I get a checkpoint. Unsurprisingly, I hit the 2000 death milestone here. It took me well over an hour to clear out the room twice, and when I finally did, I ran back behind the pipes and was given a checkpoint. The next hallways weren't going to be any easier, and there were so many guys I had to kill just to go inside that there was no way I could run past them. The best way I found to get inside was to enter to the right and immediately start sticking all the elites. There was a shotgun with a bit of ammo and frag grenades on the ground too. As long as I kept killing guys, I kept getting grenades, which meant I also had to look out for chain reactions. The problem with this strat though was that just getting inside the right side room was very RNG dependent, and no matter how many I killed, they would just keep coming and coming, and eventually kill me. On one attempt I tried just running by everyone again, and I almost made it to the end of the hallway, so I was encouraged that this could work. I was using grenades to try and clear a path, which helped me discover that this works just like the Keys hallway. For every elite that dies, another one will spawn at the end. My first time making it through the hallway, I went straight for the overshield, but considering it was a dead end, I realized that was a bad idea. I tried just throwing the grenade at the ground near the entrance to the hallway, so it would clear away by pushing and staggering the elites, and not kill any of them, which would mean no more would spawn at the end and trap me. Sometimes I would accidentally stick an elite, or they would kill each other while trying to kill me, or I'd set off a chain reaction, so it didn't work every single time. Getting through the hallway and then to the tunnel where I needed to go was extremely difficult. There was more elites in the tunnel, and then with the guys chasing me, that meant I was surrounded every single time. More than at any other point during this challenge, I feared it wasn't going to be possible to complete. How could I survive this? But then, something amazing happened. They stopped following me into the tunnel, and even though I missed getting the shotgun, I survived anyway. I just needed to kill the last group of elites around the corner, and then I was out of here. I don't know how that happened, but I was so relieved and pumped. What the actual fuck? Nah, this shit's old now. Even though that death nearly broke me, I knew I had to keep going. If I stayed in this loop for too much longer, I was gonna go insane and end up like this elite here. As long as I didn't get followed into the side tunnel or choke, I could get out of here. Soon enough, I got another chance. I killed the tunnel elites, and this time I peeked around the corner more slowly. I kept moving carefully until this happened. Not one, but 2 checkpoints. Getting out of that death loop felt like escaping from prison, and with the momentum it gave me, I flew into the engine room. A simple grenade jump helped me get up top quicker, and avoid many of the elites in this room. And yes, I even turned Guilty Spark into a sword elite. He's invincible, but he doesn't attack you, so he's basically a giant teddy bear. After destroying the reactors, it was time to abandon ship. My last concern for this challenge was how would the elites behave during the Warthog run? Would they jump at me aggressively like they did before when I was in vehicles, or would they dive out of the way? If you guessed number 2, you were right. Luckily, it seemed if I maintained my speed and didn't flip over near the elites, I'd be okay. Then I tried to be like the cool kids and do a 360 because I couldn't help myself. Which landed me here for probably the first time ever. I still had no problem making it to the end on time, and completed the challenge. That was definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done in gaming, and looking back, I really enjoyed the experience. Yes, getting stuck at a checkpoint for hours really sucked, but I'm glad I pushed myself. The hardest parts of this made the game feel like a puzzle, and solving it was extremely satisfying. As promised, here's a comparison of all the missions. With it taking 12.5 hours and 853 deaths to beat, Truth and Reconciliation was easily the hardest mission. The last few levels were also pretty tough, so in total, I ended up taking over 30 hours to beat this challenge, dying 2,235 times. And it wasn't just the challenge itself that got me to push myself. Doing this got me to learn how to mod Halo, how to edit together this video, and how to livestream for the first time ever. It was a bit scary putting myself out there live for the first time, but I managed to stream every single second of this challenge on Twitch. And I had a lot of fun doing it. So much so that I've recently returned to streaming, as I tried to beat CE Lasso solo without using the save and quit method. Overall, this challenge was a long process, but one that I'm very grateful for, and it's left me feeling like Chief at the end of Halo CE.
It's finished.